Greetings, friends! Russian forces continue to systematically advance towards Pokrovsk, taking control of more and more new positions, but let's talk about everything in order. The Kurakhova direction. Even Ukrainian sources here write about the almost completely surrendered Kurakhova, with the Ukrainian armed forces allocated only in the area of the thermal power plant. They also write about the fighting in the Dachny area, the loss of which will automatically lead to the loss of the Kurachovsk thermal power plant. And the loss of the village Ulakli, located just west of the settlement, will lead to the loss of Dachny too. And in any case, the northern bank of the Sukhiy Yaly river will also be lost, which Ukrainian units are desperately holding onto, trying to hold this land with the remnants of the 79th Brigade. Its collapse will also lead to a rapid collapse of the Kurakhova pocket. In general, the situation of the organizing grouping of Ukrainian troops in Kurakhova is bleak and without options, namely destruction. And the only question is how many combat-ready Ukrainian units will be knocked out. In fact, this is the most important, since it is already obvious that it is precisely the lack of such units that is now leading to the fact that the Ukrainian army, albeit slowly, is retreating almost along the entire front. Let me remind you that the attempt to hold a small pocket in the Uspienovka-Annovka area cost the 79th Brigade at least 2 battalions, very good battalions, which the Ukrainian armed forces simply do not have now, and an attempt to hold Kurakhova at any cost will cost them even more. Meanwhile, fierce fighting continues in the Selidova direction in the Novovasilievka area. Moreover, in some places, the Ukrainian forces are even trying to counterattack in order to dislodge the Russian troops from the outermost huts of the village. The reason is clear. It was based on these positions that the Russian units managed to reach the rear of the Ukrainian armed forces defense line, located along the ravine in the villages of Solene, Pishane and Zverovoye. Its successful breakthrough will give them the opportunity to move more freely in a northwesterly direction with the aim of cutting off communications of the grouping of Ukrainian troops in Pokrovsk. Hence the attempts by the Ukrainian side to prevent this. In addition, Russian units are finishing knocking out Ukrainian forces from Novolenivka, and there are stubborn battles in the Ukrainka area. It is very difficult for Russian units to advance here, and all because it is here that the fortifications of the Ukrainian army are concentrated. And right now, on the Novolenivka-Ukrainka line, Russian attack aircraft are breaking through the next line of defense. After its breakthrough, the next one goes along the Novoalexandrovka-Troitska-Alexeivka line. Therefore, having failed to stay in the area of Novolenivka-Ukrainka, then they will have to retreat to a new line of resistance pretty quickly, and the command of the armed forces of Ukraine is trying to postpone this moment for as long as possible. Meanwhile, in the Pokrovsk direction, the main battles are taking place along the Volchye, Pishane, Belgiyka, Dachinskaya line. The Ukrainian forces, having deployed reserves here, are trying their best to contain the Russian armed forces at the last equipped line of defense in front of Pokrovsk, or rather on what's left of it, because Russian units have already broken through it in many places, once in the area of the village of Volchye, where they, using the breakthrough between Novotorets and Novovasilievka, went out to the flank and took one of the positions of the Ukrainian armed forces defense line in the area. In addition, fierce fighting is taking place in the Pishane area. The village is roughly divided in half. Russian troops are also marching north in the direction of the village of Shevchenko along the railway tracks, and are also trying to break through to the Chunishino railway station from Dachinskaya. In the Toretsk direction, Russian units continue to prepare for the storming of the Toretskaya mine, and therefore gradually occupy all possible approaches to it. So, the day before, the quarters of the settlement of Krymska, the northern suburb of Toretsk, which actually merged with it into a single building, were occupied. In the Kursk area, yesterday, Russian forces, building on their earlier success, launched an assault on the village of Kruglinka. If successful, they will greatly complicate the situation for the Ukrainian units in the area of Malaya Loknya Pogribki, because the Russian armed forces are moving into the flank of this group. Also, an additional problem for the Ukrainian armed forces was the loss of control over Novoivanovka, and if Russian troops manage to take control of Leonidova, then everything will be very sad for the Ukrainian army, and so far everything is heading towards that. Moreover, the Russian units are making small progress in the area of Ruskaya Poreshnya. As for the sector of the front south of Sudzha, it is also not easy for the Ukrainian troops here, but they are still holding out. At the same time, Russian President Vladimir Putin repeated his latest assertion that he should have violated the ceasefire he had imposed on Ukraine in 2014 and 2015 by launching a full-scale invasion even earlier than February 2022. Putin reiterated during an interview with Kremlin journalist Pavel Zarubin on December 22 that Russia should have started its full-scale invasion of Ukraine earlier than February 2022, but added that it is impossible to say exactly when that should have been. Putin blamed Ukraine and the West for misleading Russia and not implementing the Minsk II Accords, which Putin claimed gave the West time to prepare Ukraine for future military actions against Russia. Putin claimed that Russia should have prepared for this and chosen the right moment to begin its full-scale invasion of Ukraine and not waiting for the moment when it was no longer possible to do nothing. Putin failed to mention that Ukraine worked to strengthen its military as a defensive response to Russia's 2014 annexation of Ukrainian territory and the launch of a war in the country's east. Putin made similar remarks during his December 19 direct-line televised press conference, wherein he claimed that he would have made the decision to launch his full-scale invasion earlier if he could do it over again. Putin also claimed on December 19 that Ukraine didn't abide by the Minsk II Accords and that Russia spontaneously invaded Ukraine in 2022. The Minsk II Accords were not The Minsk II Accords were notably extremely favorable to Russia, placing no obligations on Moscow, which party to the negotiation as an alleged neutral mediator. The accords established a ceasefire that Russian proxies continually violated with Russian support. Also, Ukrainian forces reportedly struck an oil depot in Oryol Oblast with drones on the night of December 21–22. Oryol Oblast Governor Andrei Klitschkov claimed on December 22 that Russian air defenses and electronic warfare downed 20 Ukrainian drones over Oryol Oblast, and that drone strike caused a fire at a fuel facility. Footage published on December 22 purportedly shows a drone strike at the Stальной Kon oil depot on the northeastern outskirts of Oryol city. Ukraine's Foreign Intelligence Service reported on December 22 that international sanctions preventing Russia from accessing Western equipment and components, Ukrainian drone strikes reduced Russian oil export, and higher Russian loan rates have caused Russian oil refineries to increase their downtime in 2024. Ukraine's Foreign Intelligence Service reported that Russian oil refineries experienced a total downtime that prevented the facilities from the refining 41.1 million tons of oil in 2024, after having only experienced a total downtime worth 35.9 million tons of oil in 2023. Ukrainian drone strikes have also targeted Russian air bases, and the Russian military appears to be building shelters for aircraft at several Russian air bases. Satellite imagery collected throughout October 2024 indicates that the Russian military has been constructing shelters for aircraft at several air bases, including in Primorsk-Akhtarsk, Krasnodarsky Krai, Kursk city, and occupied Belbek, Crimea. In addition, Russian units are finishing knocking out Ukrainian forces from Novolenivka, and there are stubborn battles in the Ukrainka area. It is very difficult for Russian units to advance here, and all because it is here that the fortifications of the Ukrainian army are concentrated. And right now, on the Novolenivka-Ukrainka line, Russian attack aircraft are breaking through the next line of defense.